Hello everyone, welcome to Conversations with Sakina. In this pick a card, your spirit guide is going to share signs with you and a message. So take a look at the eyes on the screen, choose the one that appeals to you the most. Timestamps are in the description box below. Enjoy! Hello Pile 1. So we're going to get some of the signs that your spirit guide would like you to look for and a short message in there as well. So let us see what we get. If you hear some noises, we're having back-to-back storms today, so we're getting a lot of rumbling and from thunder. So we have Temperance, the Nine of Swords, the Four of Wands, the Five of Swords, Eight of Cups, Page of Cups, and the Lovers. Okay, so we're going to start with the signs, which are going to be the four outside cards. So the first thing that your guides would like you to look for is fire, such as bonfires, somebody burning leaves, something that looks like a fire sculpture, anything that has to do with fire in an outdoor setting. They also would like you to pay attention to anything that has to do with water, such as water fountains, drinking ones, and fountains in like gardens, and wild flowers. Ones that are in an area that are all different kinds of flowers, not like a flower garden, but wild flowers, flowers that are growing completely wild. So those are three of them. With the Nine of Swords, your guide is asking you to pay attention to shadows. Check out the shape of shadows that you see to see if there's any kind of a message or sign in that shadow. So obviously the sun will have to be shining for that, but it is definitely shadows that they also would like you to pay attention to. Now these aren't the conventional signs. Usually you're hearing, well, pay attention to the numbers, pay attention to things that you smell, things like that. And that could be one of them too, the way that her nose is up in the air here. So take that as one. That's why that came to mind, is sense of smell, something that you might smell. But shadows. And then we again have fire with the birthday candles on the cake, so they're really stressing fire here. Also, pay attention to birthday cakes. Wherever you see signs of birthday cakes. And these signs are going to have to do with the message that's in the middle. So we'll go back to them occasionally. Celebrations. Any kind of celebration or festival. Birthday parties, that kind of thing. Just take note that you have seen them. And with the Five of Swords, we're looking at insects. Butterflies specifically. Pay attention to butterflies that you see. Also, jars. Any kind of jar, doesn't really matter. And again, these aren't conventional signs, but this is what your guide would like you to pay attention to. Now, if they're conventional signs, you're used to knowing where to look and when to look. You're prepared to look, but in this case, they're wanting you to look outdoors as well as on television shows. You might hear the word fire on the radio. You might hear something about a jar on the radio. Shadow, in a movie. So pay attention outdoors more than through movies and radio, but don't ignore those either. So obviously here, with the Eight of Cups, the Page of Cups, and the Lovers. Okay, it could be about love, but I don't believe it is. I think your guide is discussing your intuition, your connection to spirit here. And with the Eight of Cups, I feel like they're saying that, you were really once into doing this, but something happened and you're like, okay, been there, done that, bored, don't want to do that anymore, want to move on to something else. So you never really got the time or took the opportunity to master working with your intuition in that way. But they're saying you have a lot to learn here yet. A great deal to understand, and this means kind of checking in with your emotions also to see what, for instance, these particular signs they want you to look for. What do they mean to you? Why is it that your spirit guide is showing you these specific signs? Why? Each thing that they have given you here for signs is going to create an emotion of some sort. And they want you to pay attention to this. The Lovers is a union card. It is a connection to self. It is a connection to spirit. It is the root of your intuition. You're supposed to have the intuition, and you're supposed to use the intuition. It's growth. It's food for the roots of self to make you grow in your spiritual quest. So your spirit guide is really telling you, I think, that at some point in time, if you follow and if you pay attention here to the signs as they're sharing them with you, I think they're trying to train you for some kind of mediumship. And maybe you've noticed you have the ability. Maybe you haven't. But I believe they are trying to train you for some kind of mediumship because they really want you to determine what these things mean to you. So in other words, you see a butterfly and it's a specific color butterfly. What does that butterfly make you feel? And the symbolism for mediumship is always about feeling. So we definitely have a lot of feeling here, emotions with these cups. There's emotion here. So they want you to pay attention to what these signs make you feel. What does a jar make you feel? Now that seems to be a very strange question, obviously. What do you mean? A jar really doesn't make me emote. However, that might not be true because maybe a mason jar that's used for canning, maybe you remember your grandmother canning and using specific kinds of jars. And maybe she's passed. So that might bring back that canning memory. Okay, this is somebody who's canning. So when and if you are called into mediumship, you might be talking to somebody and somebody's loved one may come through, and what you see are jars. You will know from doing this practice that canning is one of the things that this person used to do that would be important to the person that you're speaking to who has lost that loved one. So there is a point to these, looking for these signs and symbols, and it's probably best to write them down. So carry pen and paper with you so you have the opportunity to note how often these particular ones come up and how they make you feel. How are they connected to you? Do they make you think about someone or something specific? So again, just quick recap. Fire, water, like fountains and things like that, wildflowers, and smell. Certain smells, they're not saying what smell, although if you think of fire, you might think burning leaves. Certain smells. Shadows, specifically. birthday cakes, celebrations of any kind. And we are going to also add in here 1111 because these poles make up 1111. And when and if you get 1111 that you see somewhere, at that point in time, think about what you're thinking about or what you're doing at that specific time. So you can relate that, just as I explained with the jars. You might be able to relate that with something. Don't just do it so fast. Put some thought into it. If you're having a struggle as to, that really doesn't mean anything, so I'm just going to pass on it. If you want to learn and be trained for mediumship, which is really what I believe this is about, take your time with it. And then again, we've got butterflies and jars. I'm even going to say muffins. Even though this is a pin cushion, it looks more like a muffin to me. So I'm going to say muffin. And so when you see muffins, again, what does it mean to you? What does it make you think about? How does it make you feel? Those are the questions that you want to ask yourself. So there you go, pile 1. That is the message from your guide and the signs they would like you to look for. Take care. Hello, pile 2. In this reading, we are going to receive some signs from your spirit guide and also a message. So let's see what they're going to give you today. We have the High Priestess. We have the Tower. We have the Five of Pentacles. We have the Ten of Wands. Knight of Cups. Two of Cups. And the Sun. And if you hear rumbling in the background, we are having some major storms back to back here. It is thundering quite a lot right now. So thought I would give you warning on that. All right, so the outside 4 cards here are the signs that your spirit guide wants you to pay attention to. So what I'm seeing here is she wants you to pay attention to, she or he, wants you to pay attention to any yin or yang sign that you see, gates, specific kinds of gates, and yes, this means gates that are in people's yards, fence gates, anywhere that you see a gate or a doorway that doesn't have a door on it per se. They would like you to pay attention to the moon as well. And then pay attention to seeing like skeleton keys, if you happen to see skeleton keys. And then we have lightning. They want you to pay attention to lightning and to pay attention to very interestingly built homes, like A-frame houses, things like that. Anything, any kind of house that like really catches your eye. And then over here, stars. Pay attention to stars that you would see. Pay attention to people hugging. Now keep in mind, these signs can be on television shows, they can be in movies, they can be words that you hear on the radio, words that you hear people talking. But I think with this reading, your guide really wants you to pay attention to things that are going on outdoors especially. But don't disregard the things that you might hear on the radio. You might hear the word hug or hugging. And with the Ten of Wands, I believe that they would like you to pay attention to things that look like scrolls, rolled up paper with ribbons around them, helmets, perhaps, baskets, and groupings of sticks, perhaps, in baskets. Now, I know these are really odd signs, really odd things to look for. So let's see if your guide is giving us some reason for this. So with the Knight of Cups, well, first of all, we have cups, we have fire. So with the cups, I believe that your guide is asking you to work with your intuition. Cups is about intuition. Cups is about emotion. And intuition and emotion kind of go hand in hand here. So they're asking you to really put in the work. Set the rigging. They're trying to help you set the rigging. And this happened in pile 1 too, is I think they're preparing you for some kind of mediumship ability. And part of that has to do with these signs, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So they're asking you to, put in the work. And it isn't easy work when it comes to setting the rigging on a ship, especially when there's turbulent waters. This is hard work, and they're not telling you that it's going to be easy work. With the Two of Cups, this is where they're telling you that marrying your emotion and your intuition is going to help you with this mediumship ability that they're talking about. Doing these things will enlighten you. It will illuminate things that you've perhaps never even thought of, never considered. It will open things up in such a brilliant way for you to be able to work with people who have passed over, to get messages in that way, if that is your interest. But your guides are saying this is something you can do. Now, when they're talking about the signs and symbols that they would like you to look for, it's a good idea always to carry a notebook with you, pen and paper of some sort, so that you can write down what you've seen, what you're seeing. Now let's say, for instance, this gate, okay? Seeing a gate or a very unique doorway that doesn't, well, I suppose it can or may not have a door, but a gateway, a doorway of some kind. So what's the significance, you're wondering, obviously, of, so I see one. What does that mean? That's what you need to ask yourself. That's part of this work with your intuition. It's part of marrying the emotion and the intuition together to get the answers that you need. So when you see that gate, that gateway, or that unique doorway, and it needs to be unique, not just the door you walk into in your home. It needs to be something that really you look at and go, wow, look at that. Okay, so you see that. What does it make you think? What does it make you feel? Is it a magical door to you? Is it you feel like you could walk through that door into, say, another dimension, another world? Determine what that means to you. Because what will happen is, when you are being trained for mediumship of some kind, there has to be a symbolic language between you and your guides, which your guides will share with people on the other side, so they know how to project an image into your mind. Now, if you have a specific symbolism for a gateway or a doorway, that is something that they can use to get a message across to you, they will put that gateway that you've seen in your mind, or a gateway, so that you recognize it as a very unique doorway or gateway. So that way you will know what you're supposed to say to the person who's waiting for some kind of response about their loved one that you're able to communicate with. So with the yin and yang, what does that mean to you? How does it make you feel? Yin and yang might mean balance to you. It might mean just a really cool symbol. But how does it make you feel? That's the key, which is why we have 2 cups here. How does it make you feel? What does it make you think about? Does it make you think about something that you've seen in your lifetime? For instance, maybe you saw someone at a seminar who had a pendant, a yin-yang pendant that they were wearing. And that person was teaching, I don't know, yoga. So when you see that symbol, perhaps your mind goes back to that yoga seminar or yoga class. That's the kind of thing that your guide is trying to teach you here. By recognizing those symbols and determining what they mean to you, those will become your symbolic language with the other side. So if somebody sits in front of you and they're waiting for information from a loved one and you see that symbol of the yin and yang, you're going to know that that person probably did yoga, because that's how, and that's what that symbol means to you. So this is what they're sharing with you, with coming through with certain symbols. And you can throw out, periodically, you can throw out tarot cards of your own for more symbols that you can work with. But you can understand why it's a good idea to write everything down so that you understand and remember what these symbols mean to you. So again, we have doorway or gateway, we have the yin and yang, we have the moon, we have the skeleton key, unique architecture, lightning, hugs, hugging, stars, sticks in baskets, helmets, a basket, scrolls. And I'm also going to say pathways, because we have a brick kind of pathway here, and we have a wooden pathway here. So look for those things too. And with each and everything, determine, do the work. Determine how it makes you feel. Bring that intuition and that emotion together, and the answer will be right there. You will instantly know it. It will illuminate in your mind. So there we have the signs and the message from your spirit guide. Pile 2. Take care. Hello, Pile 3. Today we are going to take a look at some of the signs that your spirit guide would like you to pay attention to, and we will also be receiving a message from your spirit guide, more than likely about these signs. And if you hear some things, rumblings in the background, we've been having storms back to back, so it is thundering. All right, so we begin with the Knight of Wands, the Wheel of Fortune, the Ace of Cups, the Five of Cups, Two of Wands, Three of Swords, and Seven of Wands. Okay, so we're going to start up here with the Knight of Wands. I feel like this is saying that your guide is saying they want you to look for odd creatures, whether this be animals, whether this is fairies, whether this is cryptids, whatever it is. They want you to pay attention when you see something or hear something that has to do with these kinds of creatures. Also, looking for the spiral, anything that is a spiral. So like is it a Fibonacci spiral, or just a spiral in general? Also really large flowers. Color doesn't seem to matter. Unique headwear also. And your guide is asking you to look for unique cups or goblets, and also unique water shapes, water decorations, water fountains, people appearing sad or upset, tired, spilled liquids. And the reason for this, usually, at least in the last 2 readings, has been in this center message. The reason that you're meant to be looking for these specific signs. They seem very random, I realize that. However, rather than giving conventional signs such as the numbers on the clock or numbers on license plates or words on things like that, those are kind of conventional signs. Your guides want to expand your abilities here a bit. And what we have here are wands, we have swords, we have wands. So they want to fuel your passion for looking for signs outdoors, things that you would look for outdoors, but also these signs can be words that you hear on the radio, words that you hear on movies or television shows. For instance, somebody might say, "Oh, that's my really special cup." Random, right? But guess what? She said, or your guide said, to look for unique goblets or cups. So you want to pay attention to anything that has to do with anything of these signs that you hear, see, smell. And we're going to say smell here too, because she's got her nose up in the air as though smelling something. So here with the 2 of Wands, as you can see, this guy, he's on the lookout. So your guide is saying they want you to really be looking for these signs and symbols. And they want you to make note of it. Lock it in your head. Lock these signs and symbols in your head. Write them down in a notebook even. This is going to add to specific knowledge that your spirit guide is trying to communicate with you. And your guide is saying it doesn't really matter if what they're asking you to do seems difficult. And your guide is saying, they know that you're not the least bit afraid that you won't be able to figure this out. But what is your incentive? Why are you supposed to be doing this? And what I'm seeing here is that from their vantage point, your spirit guide, from their vantage point, you kind of have been fighting them. They've been trying to show you signs, different signs. You really haven't been seeing them the way that your guide would like you to see them. So they're going to put you on guard. They want you to be on guard because they want you to absorb this knowledge. This is communication that you can use with your guide. If you have symbols that mean something to you, and that's the symbol that your guide puts in front of you, you're going to know what that means. So, even though pile 1 and pile 2 are similar, yours is a little different. Pile 1 and pile 2 was about mediumship, working with other people. This is you and your guide working together. So, if, for instance, you see a fairy, your guide wants you to ask yourself, what does that fairy mean to you? What does that fairy make you feel? Does it bring back a memory for you? Something that really stands out in your mind. And it doesn't even have to be a fairy, a little person per se, okay? As a for instance, when I think about a little person, little like this, I think of the book The Littles. I used to love that as a kid. So that brings that book to mind right away. If your spirit guide is trying to send you a specific message and you see one of these little people in your mind's eye, or you see one of these little people on the cover of a magazine or on television or a Gulliver's Travel book, okay, anywhere that you might see it, you will know that your guide is trying to get you to go back and remember that specific book. If that's what it means to you. That's what it would mean to me. So I would know that that would mean whatever that memory was. And don't think it's the only memory that you might have. There could be 2 or 3 specific memories that, this might evoke in your mind. Keep them in mind, because again, these symbols are how your guide can talk to you in your mind by showing you specific symbols. And because you have taken the time to relate those symbols to what memories or what emotions they bring up, you can have, after a while, after you have a pretty good symbolic vocabulary, you can have a pretty darn good conversation with your guide without even seeing these signs out in the 3D world or hearing them in the 3D world. You can do this in your mind. So that is what your guide is sharing with you for signs. Again, we have little people, cryptids like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and things like that, little people, fairies, the spirals and big flowers, no color specific, and interesting headwear. Then we have cups or goblets that are unique, fountains of some sort, water shapes, sad people, stressed people, tired people, spilled liquid. Those are the things that they want you to examine right now. And then you can always get yourself a tarot deck or some kind of cards that give symbols and throw them out and do 4 more and gain vocabulary for yourself, your symbolic vocabulary, so that you can work with your guide much more efficiently. So there we go. That is it for your signs and your message from your guide, Pile 3. Take care.